Fun fact, there are two ways to measure the height of mountains. The first begins at sea level, measures to the surface, and then to the peak of the mountain. The second method starts at the base of the mountain on land and goes to the peak of the mountain. And so using one of these methods, it can really be determined that despite what we typically say is the tallest mountain, Mount Everest, if you measured from the seafloor, Mauna Kea is actually the tallest mountain in the world. However, almost all of the tallest mountains in the world are actually in the Himalaya and the Karakoram ranges. Where's that, you might ask? That's southwest of the Tibetan Plateau. So essentially, what we have is that we could say the Himalayan mountains are the tallest in the world. Pretty amazing, huh? Can you imagine how much taller they would be if they were standing? Time for Webby's slow motion videos. Going to start off dropping a safety razor into the water. At normal speed, didn't look like anything. But slowed down, look at those waves. Splashing up from the deep. And then the water gets turbulent. And you see this mountain of water come up. It's like a water monster. Ha ha. Pretty cool. And at the end of each of these little shots, I'm going to let it run closer to normal speed. Yeah, so you'll be able to see the razor here. Next, it's going to be dropping an exercise ball into the water. You know, one of those you squeeze. Super light. I was really surprised that it went all the way underwater before popping right back up. And watch as it comes up. It's got water connected to it the whole time, and it kind of looks like a water-shaped arm, or arm shaped out of water, grabbing the ball and just slamming it right back down into the water. It's a water monster. Yeah. Now that was pretty cool. And it'll just kind of settle down and float away. So now we're switching to a hammer and a rubber band. First, I'm going to shoot the rubber band to go around one of the tines at the back, and that's what I'm calling them anyway. I don't know what they're really called. And then it just kind of settles in between them, laying down on it. The next one is going to engulf, go around the entire back end. But it came in so fast, my camera didn't catch it flying in. And then it settles down like someone's putting a Hawaiian lei over someone, right? And this one, I'm shooting a washer off of the hammer. And listen to the sounds. Isn't that cool? Slowed down, the sounds sound really, really awesome. So I needed a change of pace, sunshine, fresh air. So I went to Beasley Park. For those of you not familiar, here's a map that I'll zoom in on so you can see exactly where I was, roughly an hour away from my house. Add time for traffic. John Beasley Park. I still think it should be called Pam Beasley Park. Hey, you're in my spot. That's where I camped out that day. As soon as I got on this walkway, I could tell there were less than a couple dozen people at the beach. Perfect. Very relaxing. Just a beautiful day. Of course, I saw a lot of birds, seagulls, pelicans. I wish I got pelicans on camera. And even some jets and airplanes, because there was an air show going on just a few miles away. The previous video has been approved for all audiences, by me of course. Move to a home in Florida. Now! Grab your favorite beverage and get yourself comfortable. It's Webby's Story Time! Hello everybody, hope you're doing well. Today I want to tell you a little bit about what it was like to live and grow up in Hawaii. So you have to remember, for context, I was living there in the 60s and 70s. I graduated from high school in 1979. Since depending on the algorithm that YouTube uses, a lot of people who pass through on my channel, I've seen on the analytics, they don't actually know me. So what do you talk about when you first talk to somebody you don't know? A lot of times it's what? The weather, right? So let's talk about the weather. Typically throughout the year, and there are variations at times, but typically you have the mid 80s as the high for the daytimes, and then it might drop to the mid or low 70s at night, which is hilarious to me because I remember visiting a couple of times, and people, it gets down to like the 70s, low 70s, and they're like, oh, it's so cold, and they're putting sweaters on, and it's like, are you serious? But yeah, so the weather's really nice there. Lots of sunshine year round. Of course, during the winter, you'll get rain, unless you're on top of like Mauna Kea or something like that, or Kilauea. One of those anyway. I forget which mountain has dusting and snow during winters, or is it year round? But anyway, you can look it up. But typically where people live, yeah, it's always sunshiny for the most part, and you'll get a few rainy seasons and days. We've had storms come through. I think the worst one in all the years I've lived there was when we were living on Ho'omike Street, I believe is where it was. There's a van there's a van that a neighbor had that was across the street from us. And after the storm overnight, we found the next day that van was diagonally down the street somewhere. But as far as for my family itself, my immediate family, no, we never had any issues. Our house has all survived all the storms. Okay, so winter, water's still warm enough to swim. So if you love going to the beach and swimming, that's the place for you. You can swim year round. Which, since we're on the subject of swimming, I gotta tell you this story, okay? How did I learn how to swim? Well, as a little boy, 6 years old, I think, around there, somewhere about that age. I don't remember exactly how old I was, but my parents put me in a class for swimming lessons, and it was really funny because you first learn the basics of how to keep yourself afloat, things like that, how you can float in the water, and all that was fine. Then they had you, of course, getting used to being underwater, so they let you dunk yourself under the water and open your eyes and look around. Then you get to the point where, okay, we need you to swim across this pool and back. And it's like, okay, this looks pretty far away because I was a little kid. And so they say, go ahead, swim. I start going through, paddling and swimming. I get maybe a quarter or somewhere between a quarter and a third across the pool. I stop, I kind of look around, treading water, and then I swim back, grab onto the side. I can't do it, I can't. And it's like, if I can imagine the adults watching this, like my parents and this person who is the test proctor, probably saying, kid, you just went partly across there, treaded water, and swam back. Now you're saying you can't. So, of course, I was coaxed to go. Did I say coaxed? I was threatened, told to go and try again. So I did, made it maybe halfway, did the same thing, turned around and came back and held on to the side of the pool. I can't swim it. Well, that was embarrassing for my parents, I'm sure. But yeah, I just remember a short time later, my dad took us to look at the fisheries, go out to a pier, walk out there. And so we're looking over the side, and suddenly my dad says, okay, jump in. I said, He grabs me and tosses me into the water. And it's like, as I'm flying through the air and heading towards the water, I remember thinking, no. And I'm getting closer and closer to the water. I say, I got to take a breath because I'm going under. So I take a deep breath, I plunge into the water, and I'm just sinking towards the bottom. As I'm sinking, I'm looking around, and I'm seeing all these beautiful, colorful fish. I see the reefs out there. I see the pier posts and all that. And it's beautiful. It's like, holy smokes, this is a whole new world down here. You can hear the song. It's a brand new world, or whatever it is he's saying. A whole new world. But anyway, as I'm sinking, I'm looking at the fish around me and the plant life and everything else. It's like, wow, this is really cool. My feet touch the ground. It's like, wow, I'm at the bottom. I look up. It's like, hey, that's a long ways to go. So I figure, well, the best way I can get up there, maybe I can just push off, jump, and make it all the way to the top, right? So anyway, I push off as hard as I can, and I start flailing in the water, doing whatever I can, kicking my feet and moving my arms around. Eventually, you learn very quickly which ways to move your hands and which ways makes you go up, which ones makes you go down, etc. And I'm, letting the air out slowly as I go up, and I'm feeling this desperation building. It's like, I've got to inhale, but I know I can't. If I inhale, it's just going to be water. So frantically, I'm just flailing around and moving my arms and legs as quickly as I can. Finally, I break through the surface of the water, take a deep breath. Oh my gosh. And of course, I end up sinking right back down a little bit. So I'm moving around again, trying to paddle my way back up. I break the surface again. And eventually I'm up there treading water, just like I did in the pool. And it's like I look up at my dad, he says, swim to shore. And it's like, you're not going to jump in and pull me up, rescue me or something? Swim, go, swim. And like I say, it wasn't that far. Do the best I can, dog paddle, whatever else, I finally get to where I can walk out of the out onto the shore, and that's how I learned how to swim. And after that, every time we went to the beach, I'm just right into the water, swimming around, having fun. But it was really cool because when I was younger, before my mom passed away, we had family gatherings a lot. I mean, sometimes with my dad's side of the family, then with my mom's side of the family, and we would meet up at their houses. We would meet up at the beaches. I remember going to Ala Moana Beach Park. That was one of my favorites with the family because we'd all get together, and my family made phenomenal foods, and they would bring that for picnic lunches and so on. And as soon as we get there, of course, we kids were just right off into the water, right? Play for a while. We're playing hard, swimming, running around, doing all this, and we run back exhausted. We're hungry, we're thirsty. So we get our drinks, we get our food, we rest for a little bit. I remember my parents saying, no, you gotta wait 30 minutes or you're gonna get side pains. And it's like, longest 30 minutes ever in my life. So of course we keep on asking, can we go now? Can we go now? And sometimes, 15 minutes later, get out of here, go. And we'd run out there and start running around playing, and sure enough, oh gosh, this pain. And I remember so often my dad would say, told you, you're so hothead, why do you not listen? Yeah, we were not coddled. No, this was the 60s, okay? So yeah, we'd rest for a little while, pain would go away, and then we'd continue playing. But yeah, we would play football, frisbee, we'd play freeze tag and everything else, and there was a lot of fun. But more than the beach, what I really loved, it was the tide pools. That's what I really enjoyed. And we had a lot of good tide pools around. And just to be able to be in there, you put your mask and your snorkel on, you just go out there and be able to see all these sea creatures, sea cucumbers, sea urchins, which you had to be careful that you didn't step on them because they're crawling all over the place. But to see the fish and all that was just awesome. And as I got older, I remember places like Hanauma Bay was one of my favorites before it became a tourist trap. Now they bust people and and it's like, if you can find 1 by 1 square foot of sand to stand on, you're doing great. But this was back when, talking about the 70s now, like after school, I'd get with my friends, we'd jump in the car, go down there, and we would have room where we could just put our beach towels down, our food that we brought with us from the store or the fast food places, and then we would just go run into the water with our masks and snorkels, and to be able to go around the reefs and see all these fish. And some of these fish were pretty big. I mean, some were ginormous big, but we'd go there with our bags of frozen vegetables that we bought, and you could just put some of it in your hands while you're looking underwater, hold your hand out. As you open your hand, fish would come and eat them right out of your hands. It was just awesome. Enjoyed that a lot. So that, and like between the where the reefs were, the coral, you could dive down. There was a good distance down there, and some of these fish down there were really, like I said, they were big, but they were very gentle. They come and eat out of your hands. Every now and then they might make a mistake and nip at your fingers, and that didn't feel good. But they would let you go because they're not after your hands; they're after the vegetables we were feeding them. And so that was really cool. But this one time I remember I was doing this thing I liked. I'm gliding over the reef. And it's only about maybe a foot, 15 inches at most, below me. So it's not that far. And I'm just, looking down into the water and seeing all this cool stuff swimming under me and everything. When all of a sudden, how you have the mask on, so all of a sudden in my view comes this moray eel, and it's just looking up and it's doing that mouth thing, it's like, oh my gosh. And it's, like I said, only about a foot below me. I didn't want to startle this thing, so I freeze, and as I slowly glide over it, and so I start using my fingers. I gotta move myself along because I didn't want to make any big movements to scare this thing and make it attack. So I'm getting nervous because it's getting closer and closer, and getting to my vulnerable spots, and it's like, oh my gosh. And I watch this thing as I go over, and finally I clear it, and it's like, all right, swimming away. But it was hilarious, and that was one of my great fun experiences there beyond the feeding of the fish. Okay, so ethnicities there. Yeah, there's a lot of Asians there, but there's also a lot of everybody. And so it's a very mixed culture there, and I love that, seeing people from pretty much everywhere in the world, and you hear the different languages, you have the different accents that come by there, and then you also, you get the combination of the foods. Cuisine was off the charts, man, especially when they combined them and made something that was unique in Hawaii. Loved it. And of course, back then, when I was in the 70s, when I became a teenager, I was like 136 pounds, thin as a twig. I could eat a lot and I never could gain weight, and that was awesome because I ate a lot. It was good food there. But I loved having these cultures around. You get to see what their cultures are like. They're, especially since your friends are a good combination. And hearing the accents and trying to copy them, things like that. It was just cool. But Pidgin English, that was the one I didn't like. And that was kind of like the thing that came about originally from when all the different cultures and races came there and started living together and had to speak English. And so you ended up with this Pidgin English. You can look it up. It's spelled Pidgin. It's not, like pigeon, like the bird. It's Pidgin English. I chose not to when I was a teenager. I thought it was stupid sounding, and yeah, I didn't really. And now, since I haven't spoken it for so many decades, I remember the last time I heard some of my family speaking with Pidgin, it was like, wait, what'd you say? Can you repeat that? Wait, what does that word mean? Yeah, they say I sound howly now. Anyway, but so that was fun. But traveling in Hawaii, you can only drive so far before you end up right where you started from. And so by the time I was 18, 19 years old, I'd had enough. I wanted to get off this little rock in the middle of the ocean and be somewhere a little bigger. And I have been ever since, pretty much. Um, oh, one more funny beach thing I want to share with you. In from December 83 to December 86, I was actually in the Air Force and stationed in Hawaii. We had our kids, our daughters were very young, and we were so excited. We wanted to show them this. Actually, wait a minute. Was it when we were living there, or was it when we just went back to visit? Either way, at some point we were back there. I think it was when they were older, actually. So it would be after 87, so my son would be there too, as a matter of fact. But anyway, we were visiting Hawaii, I believe is what really happened. And we were telling them about the North Shore and how big these surfing waves were. And we were just drawing this image like you won't believe your eyes when you see this. So we get out there, we were driving out there, right? We make the turn around the corner, around the mountain roads. It kind of goes in loops, little curves. But we get to where we can see this beach, and there's hardly any wind. The waves are maybe 3 inches tall. It was such a letdown. Anyway, and we haven't lived that down. I guess they probably still don't believe that we actually have big waves there. Okay, so question that I'm asked quite often when people find out I'm born and raised in Hawaii. Do I miss living in Hawaii? Yes and no. What do I miss about Hawaii? I miss my family. The majority of my family still lives there. If it wasn't for social media, I wouldn't know what's going on in their lives, wouldn't see them. Even with that, I don't really keep up all that much because of the distance. What else do I miss about Hawaii? The awesome cuisine. The food is phenomenal there. Let's see. The only other thing, probably the weather. Having this temperate weather all through the year where, yeah, I'm in Florida now where it gets hot. But, it's the difference between mid 80s and upper 90s and hundreds, right? We get that here. And then, of course, I lived up in Western New York for a while, and that was nice, except the winters, super cold, lots of snow and ice. When I was younger, I loved that. But as I've seasoned, ripened, I don't handle the cold very well anymore, and I don't really like it. I don't want to shovel snow. I don't want to use a snow blower and do all that. I don't miss that. So yeah. But is there anything else I miss about living in Hawaii? Yes, it was beautiful there. And there's a lot of good memories that I have there. So yeah, I do miss it, but at the same time, I don't. I don't want to live there again. It's much too crowded on the island I grew up on. If I was on one of the other islands and it costs less to live there, maybe I would want to go back. So yeah, we'll see. The only other option is I have to get very wealthy so I can afford to live there right now and move back and live there. Okay, so that's my talk for today, my story, a little bit of, what it was like to live in Hawaii, grow up there. Of course, there's a lot more to it. I was, like I said, stationed there as an adult in the military, so that was a different experience, having a family of my own and everything. But so there's a lot to tell. This is just a little dip your foot in the water, so to speak, after my lesson about how I learned to swim. So hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you on the next one.